Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here. Have I even left my seat from last night? This is Wednesday, December 5th, 2018 at 15:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. God bless us all. We're having an Oktoberfest, Sierra Nevada. No, I did not go to the store today. But we're soldiering on. I think the good Lord has granted me sort of the level of just being able to be around and function, but being low grade miserable. I can do miserable. I can do miserable. Yeah, I don't like to do miserable, but I can do miserable. I've done miserable in the past. So okay, yay! Well, the primary event for me today was to watch the former President Bush's funeral, meaning Bush 41, George H.W. Bush. And I watched it off the NBC News feed, which wasn't nearly as horrible as I thought it would be. Although I wish they'd just shut the hell up when we can see what's happening. Don't sit there. And God knows where they scoured up Andrea Mitchell from. They must have resurrected her from, the I don't know. I thought she'd been put away somewhere. And then you had Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd was actually babbling and crying. Which means that, despite the fact, somewhere about a few years back, he shifted into being like the politically correct left-wing guy, on I don't know, Meet the Press or whatever the hell they fobbed him off with after they kicked David Gregory to the curb. Do you suppose that guy was kind of a closet one of us? Even with a little pussy beard, little vulva beard. He looked wrung out. He looked like he was being serious. He couldn't even talk for a while. He couldn't talk coherently. Toward the end, he sort of started getting back into his stride. And then you had Lester Holt. Well, Lester Holt, I'll listen to Lester Holt till the cows come home. I've always liked him. So that was, but you really didn't hear very much. Well, you heard them, but you didn't have to see them. You heard their voiceover when they were showing the, removal of the coffin, the body from the rotunda of the Capitol, down the steps, down the east front steps, west front steps of the Capitol, and then the motorcade, and then the arrival at the cathedral, and whoever chose the music for the army bands to play needs to get a big gold star. I'll say these were old classic standard hymns that anybody, even an atheist who happened to have wandered into a church service sometime might have encountered. I don't know, maybe they might not remember them fondly, but I'll tell you, this is like, the hymns alone had me squalling. And then the service, which unfortunately they followed right to. Okay, fine. Flawlessly executed by the National Cathedral staff. I think they must wire the crucifer and the torchbearers together by the arms given the way they sort of march completely in unison. I mean, I mean, there is no deviation. Then they have two price centaurs. Count them, two price centaurs. Those are the guys with the little sticks, with a cross on them that lead you around and tell you where you're supposed to sit and go, between gaps in the service. That's a great gig. I'd like to go over to Durham and get one of those gigs. As a percentor or verger, Yeah. Oh, it's great. You prepare the communion stuff and, you walk around with this thing. Then, tourists don't know who the hell you are, so they're scared of you. No. It's not what it's about. It's about serving Christ and other people by helping them move around properly in a space that interacts with the divine. That's a good job description. It is, I think. Who knows where we're going off to here today? Anyway, so I was interested to hear, the hymns were all those beautiful hymns, wonderful hymns. This Ronan Tynan sang one I'd never heard of before, and I can't even remember the name right now. That's how much it impressed me. Beautiful voice, shitty hymn. And they, it was interesting to see who participated in the service in terms of reading the responses or singing the hymns. Well, the Bush family, they grew up doing this, so they were doing it all. A lot of it just off by heart, of course. Jimmy Carter was very much involved. So was Bill Clinton, to his credit. The Obamas, not so much Barack Hussein, but his wife kind of got into it there about halfway through. And then we had President Trump. Oh well, according to Hillary. I don't think Hillary wasn't paying too much. Bill was kind of getting into it. Hillary didn't give a fuck. Now Trump, I didn't see Trump sing one word, utter one response, mouth a single amen. It was as if he had been placed there and a bell jar had been put over top of him, and he just sat there essentially almost still as a stone the entire time. No facial expression. No change in facial expression. As probably as neutral to just slightly pissed off facial expression you'd get. Nothing overtly that you could say, look. No. And I was sure hoping this guy would, do the right thing. Well, he was there. He didn't make a scene. I guess he cut a deal with the Bush family ahead of time. I won't make a scene if you don't make a deal about me. Okay. Well, he likes to make deals. But it's like, you've got all these people, the Bush family squalling, the ex-presidents all the ex-presidents are squalling, for the most part, squalling using a liberal, generous thing. You got Jim Baker, Bob Dole, and all the eulogists, they're all squalling. Trump, completely stone-faced. You wonder if he had been alive during the time of this man's presidency at all. Well, I'm sure that's going to be, hoisted up the petard and shot at for days to come. In any case, you had Bishop Michael Curry there, presiding bishop of the U.S. Episcopal Church. You had the Washington diocesan bishop there. I don't know her name. You had the Bush's local parish rector there, and then you had the dean did a thing. The old dean of Washington Cathedral did a little something. But in terms of eulogies, you had Bush's biographer, a journalist, gave all these eulogies were beautiful, wonderful. And you had Brian Mulroney, the former Prime Minister of Canada, who clearly, the way he was flipping through his, speech, he must have had about 8 words on a page, and they must have been at the periphery. He obviously has really, really severe macular degeneration, because that way he could read it, but he can still sort of look like he's looking at it, because it's off in the periphery. Poor guy. He didn't have to quite be led back to his seat, but damn near. Then you had Alan Simpson, the former senator from Wyoming, who apparently, he and the Bush family were really good, close personal friends. I mean, from the time that Bush 41 came to Washington as a first-term House of Representatives congressman, they were, I guess, he showed up in, I don't know, there's some sort of Bush's dad was senator for Wyoming, and then Simpson's dad came in and was senator or some damn thing. And that's how they met, and it's like lifelong buddies ever since. These guys meet in their 20s or sometime like that. I don't know, 20, 25, late 20s. Anyway, Simpson's funny as all get out. And of course, you're squalling the whole time. And then George W. Bush got up. And, I had a friend who had to eulogize his dad here about 7 or 8 years back. No. Well, I don't know who was. Well, yes, I did. Anyway, the takeaway lesson is, if you can get somebody else to do it for you, get somebody else to do it for you, because you're going to do a shitty job, no matter how far ahead you wrote that speech. Bush didn't do a bad job, but you could tell he didn't. He held it together pretty well right up into the end. And it's hard to do that. And somebody said, well, how do you keep from breaking down? He says, I read the thing about 15, 20 times, say like when I'm shaving or on the toilet or something, and that way I get desensitized to it, so that when I'm reading it, I'm reading it. And I've had to read stuff where at church for some of the stuff for like funerals, somebody's asked me to read stuff for them, and I've done the same thing, just because you don't want to get up there and act like an idiot in front of the family who's sitting about, essentially, 4 yards in front of you. Well, then the military does this stuff exquisitely, as always. I mean, just absolutely precise. It was nice it wasn't raining, or snowing, or really nasty weather. It was a little cold, but not that cold um, for December in Washington. Uh, didn't even look all that windy either, actually. So, well, yeah, it was actually. I mean, the flags were completely out, when they were out in the wind. But that's, I've been in Washington where there's a lot more wind than there was here today. I actually thought about driving over there to go do the rotunda line, to go around the casket. Well, I didn't want to take that chance. But I thought about it. So they loaded him into the airplane, and the family got on the airplane, and off they've gone. Um, yeah, it's a little bit of a moment in, well, not only U.S. history but world history here, with all the stuff he was involved in. The Berlin Wall coming down, German reunification more properly. Uh, Collapse of the Soviet Union. Uh, some of the adventures down in Panama, and temporarily getting rid of that weirdo Sandinista guy. He's back though, for all the good that did. Yeah. Well, he was a gracious guy. I was, and again, I'll be the first to admit that I always thought he was a bit of a wet, and I think he was a bit of a wet. I would have preferred that he had a bit more of a hard edge politically. Maybe not personally, certainly not personally, but politically. And there's a way to state your beliefs firmly and emphatically without coming across as rude and inconsiderate. That's a fine line to walk, but you can do it. And he didn't seem to do that. Maybe in private he did, but not in his public statements. I think his son managed to pull that off. Yeah. Well, so that was my day today. Yeah. It's an end of an era. It's like when Reagan died, and of course Reagan was Reagan. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, his wife was still around, so we had to get a big dose of his wife. Now, getting a big dose of Barbara Bush wouldn't have been a bad deal on this one, but Ronald Reagan's wife, she was crazy as a loon. Hell, she was almost as crazy as Al Gore. Well, Al Gore was there, and John Major was there, and Angela Merkel was there, and you had, and she was actually speaking English, and you had a whole bunch of people there. It looked. I don't know. I think there were, of course, the various ambassadors and stuff there, and of course the cabinet and the Supreme Court was there without their robes on. And that's a sight you don't see very often. But Donald Trump sat there almost immobile, almost as if he were carved out of stone. I will say Mrs. Obama, Michelle Obama, looked like she had a big burr upper behind about the first half of the proceedings, maybe first 60% of the proceedings. But then I got thinking, well, this is going to be very sexist, folks. A lot of women act that way anyway, and how can you tell the damn difference? I can't. Of course, Hillary Clinton was like almost like the female counterpart of Donald Trump. Now she was a bit more animated. You know, Bill Clinton was getting a kick out of all this. He was having fun. He was having a great time. Jimmy Carter's getting tired. Well, the man's 94. Fuck. Rosalind has not aged well. But that's okay. I don't mean to be catty. That's true. You know, it's interesting because, you know, this particular liturgy, you know, I mean, this is it's a fairly, I mean, it's really the classic, like, go-to national. Of course, I'm sure Carter encountered it when he was in the Navy. But if you spent your life in nothing but hardcore Protestant Baptist type churches, or even hardcore Methodist type churches, which are in theory an off church of the Episcopal Church or Church of England, you might not be familiar with this stuff. In the midst of life, we are in death. I know that my Redeemer liveth, that I shall see him at the last day upon the earth with my own eyes. Oh, I mean, it's you know, as the start of any funeral service, it is the best possible. I don't know, maybe I can't speak for the Muslims, but I don't even think the other than the monotheistic religions believe in, you know, that kind of stuff. I can't make a statement about that. Okay, well, I'm going to try to see what I'm going to do about inflicting this upon all of you. I'll say bye-bye, YouTube.